Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am the Maze Madman. Before we get started, hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell so you're aware every time I upload a video. Today, we're going to be talking Chris Partridge and his recruiting philosophy and style since his return to Michigan. We're also going to talk a little about Jesse Minter interviewing for the Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator job, as well as the latest on five-star quarterback target Jadyn Davis, and a couple of top-tier offensive linemen set to visit Michigan, all that. And as always, I'm upset. Freeway got the hood on smash, pop in tape, step on gas, and get ghost. Anyway, I want to thank all of you, everyone who patronizes the channel, for your subscriptions, for your likes, for your comments in the comment section. Without you, it wouldn't be possible. But I recently reached 2,000 subs, so give yourself a round of applause. I actually brought my guy Ric Flair with me to help us celebrate. Rick?
Woo! I'm the best there is. Woo! 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 Woo!
So in a move that seems so Michigan, it's so University of Michigan to do this particular thing, and that is be at the height of your success and prosperity and then have coaches flirt with the NFL. And now it's not just head coach Jim Harbaugh, but defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, who interviewed for the same job with the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, it's a big job, right? The Philadelphia Eagles just played in the Super Bowl. They have what looks like a good young core that could be together for a while and maybe even back in the same position next year with the right coach. That's all great. That's great for Philadelphia, and that's great for the Eagles, and it sucks for Michigan. Leave our coaches alone. Now, on one hand, it is a great thing, right? Because it is like the residual or the effect of having a top tier program where people want your coaches. I understand all of that, right? That's all good. It's all good. We get it. That being said, we can't have nice things. Hands off Jesse Minter. We need Jesse Minter for this next run. Obviously, there's no telling what this will do to the recruiting efforts of Jesse Minter and of that on the defensive side of the ball, where we seem to be getting the most traction, by the way, outside of like offensive linemen. But even with offensive linemen, the defensive side of the ball is doing very well in terms of recruiting. That could all change, of course, if one person, I'm talking to you, Jayden Davis, decides to go ahead and commit to the Wolverines. But that's for another time in this video here. Right now, though, I need the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles, their ownership, their coaching staff to keep their hands off Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter is the defensive coordinator for the Michigan Wolverines, at least until we win that national championship. But for right now, keep your hands off. That being said, Jesse Minter, who does have some NFL experience, obviously coming from the Ravens, I don't feel like at this moment he is going to leave the program to take that job. I also don't know if the job will be offered to Jesse Minter per se, but it is also in his professional interest to interview for these kinds of openings when they happen. So I understand that. But again, we can't have nice things keep off Jesse Minter. Moving right along. Newly titled and newly hired, or rehired, if you will, linebackers coach Chris Partridge sat down with John Jansen on the latest episode of In the Trenches podcast, where he talked about a myriad of things, including his recruiting style, how important recruiting is to successful programs, as well as even an Urban Meyer compliment in a way, right? He said this about Urban Meyer. The former, obviously, head coach of the other state, and also He had a very brief stint in the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're not going to run down all of his coaching stops because who cares about Urban Meyer? But Chris Partridge had this to say about Urban Meyer. He said, even Urban Meyer, for all his transgressions, was right about one thing, and that is you need great recruiters on your staff. He wouldn't hire anyone who wasn't dedicated to it. So I guess that's sort of a compliment while also taking a swipe, speaking about his transgressions, which there are many of, by the way, and to get out of a job, he's not above faking a heart condition. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not here to talk about that guy. I'm here to talk about Chris Partridge. Chris Partridge says number one in terms of recruiting is relationships. I'm a relationships guy. I love recruiting because I love talking to and meeting different families, coaches, different size schools, different ways of doing things, different upbringing from the players. That all interests me, for forming relationships with different people around the country. It excites me and I like doing it. Naturally, when you like doing something and it fits who you are, you're going to work harder and just be better at it. That is a quote from Chris Partridge for the In the Trenches podcast with John Jansen. So Chris basically talking about relationships that he builds with the recruits' parents and the recruits themselves, even the coaching staffs of the high schools that these recruits come from. He also went on to talk about the transfer portal and how important it is just to recruit your current players, right? So that they don't want to leave and they don't want to go somewhere else. He also got into a little bit about the areas that he's recruited. He's famously a former high school head coach in the New Jersey area, Paramus High School, that you may know from Jabril Peppers and Rashawn Gary, the likes of those guys who came from New Jersey as well. He was big in the recruitment of Rashawn Gary. But Chris Partridge knows that area very well, in that mid-Atlantic kind of northeast area. But when he was a coach, an assistant or co-defensive coordinator at Ole Miss, he also had to get acclimated to recruiting in the South, which he did. And he actually did that pretty well when he was at Michigan, recruiting guys like but Chris Hinton, who was from Georgia, obviously, and Aubrey Solomon, also from Georgia. He also had a hand in and played a big role in recruiting Daxton Hill from Oklahoma. Now, there's some who say Oklahoma's not the South, but being that I'm from the North here, Oklahoma's the South. Anyway, so Chris Partridge expected to play a big part in Michigan recruiting. In fact, he's doing a bang-up job of it already, getting Michigan in the conversation with a lot of recruits that maybe weren't necessarily thinking about Michigan before his arrival. So we'll keep you posted on all of that as well. Before we go any further, I just want to remind everyone to hit the like and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already for more content, and hit the notification bell so you're aware every time I upload a video. Michigan and the DMV area, you guys have heard me talk about this a few times now recently, but we have some great news as a trio of DMV 4-stars are headed to Michigan for unofficial visits next month. So March will be a big month for Michigan in terms of recruiting the DMV area, as maybe the number one edge in the country out of Washington, D.C. Dylan Stewart from Friendship Collegiate Academy will be on campus on March 18th. In addition to Dylan Stewart, we will also host, or Michigan will also host, Aaron Childs from Good Counsel and his teammate, Mr. Darian Mayo, an edge out of Good Counsel in Olney, Maryland. These are all considered very viable targets for Michigan. In fact, Aaron Childs has said that Michigan is number one for him currently. Dylan Stewart also holds Michigan in high regard. So hopefully Michigan can really make a move with these guys, all of whom in the 2024 class. Make sure you tune in live tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern time, as I will be with my guy Ryan Fravel from Week Zero Productions, talking about everything Michigan and Notre Dame on a show that we like to call Maize and Blue and Gold. Tune in. It'll be right here on the Maize Madman channel. An update for Michigan fans on five-star quarterback out of Providence Day School in North Carolina, Mr. Jadyn Davis, who recently did an interview with Sam Webb, had this to say about the recruitment and the recruitment process. When it comes to NIL specifically, Davis shot down the notion that he is looking for NIL. He understands that he can get NIL anywhere he goes. And if it was about NIL, and this is a quote, he would already know where he would be going to school at. And I think that bodes really well for Michigan. Obviously, Michigan has had its problems on the NIL front. I also can say this. Michigan has Blake Corum, who is worth well over $1 million in NIL, according to On3, and fast approaching that $1 million mark is starting quarterback JJ McCarthy. So it's not like you cannot make money at Michigan. They're just taking a bit of a different approach with, the wait and see approach before we give you a bag of money, which I'm not really mad at. And Jadyn also went on to talk about how he is ready to get the process over, which I also think bodes well for Michigan. He will be making another visit to Michigan to speak with the coaches, including Kirk Campbell, who he has not yet had a face-to-face meeting with. And I think that meeting is very important for Michigan. But I do expect Kirk Campbell to knock it out of the park. And if so, I expect Jadyn Davis to commit while he is at Michigan on his next visit. So be on the lookout for that. I'll get locked down a date for you guys as that becomes available. Speaking of Jadyn Davis, the guy that protects his blind side, Mr. David Sanders, who is considered the number one offensive tackle in the 2025 class, is also excited to see Michigan. He said this about the recruiting process. Recruiting has been really good. When it was the live period, there was a lot of coaches up and down the school. I got to talk to a lot of different coaches, which was cool. I don't have any visits set in stone, but I'm working on scheduling them. When speaking about Michigan specifically, he had this to say: I want to go up there on a visit soon just to see the campus, meet all the coaches and things like that. Michigan will definitely get a visit once I set everything up for the spring. I'm excited to check them out. So I think getting his quarterback, obviously Jordan Shipp, a wide receiver from Providence Day School, who has been long considered a Michigan lean, all of those things will help tremendously in landing this guy, the number one tackle in the 2025 class. Keep it locked here for all the updates. Like I said before, follow me on Twitter at Maize Madman. Keep it locked to the channel, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, all of that. And until next time, remember, I'm upset.
Ladies and gentlemen, this might be our best season ever. My ratings, they're about to go to the roof.
All right, now I'm gonna calm down. So I'm gonna calm down. I don't just